Yeah. So speaking of not knowing, I feel like I've been kind of exploring the cave of Python, which is large and vast. And I just come on like a whole nother area. I'm like, it opens up like, what is this? How have I not known about this? And this is NBDev. Have you heard of NBDev?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you about it and I'll get your impressions later. So NBDev takes notebooks and basically makes them on par with writing proper Python packages and solves all these different problems. It lets you generate what's got to be some of the best documentation, period, for that library that is sort of backed by a notebook. So it lets you develop like full Python packages and libraries and notebooks where you can have all your code, your unit tests, and your documentation all in one place. But then you can take it and pip install. You can upload it to pip and make it a pip install of a library that people have no idea that it came from a notebook.
Wow.
Is that crazy or what?
That's awesome. I got to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you think about this idea of notebooks, and to me, notebooks like burst on the scene in the 2010-ish era, maybe 2012, 2011, like that time frame. But this project references this concept envisioned by Donald Knuth way back in 1983. And it says notebooks finally made literate programming, this concept by Donald Knuth, a thing. So, the old is new again, but in a really cool way. And to me, this seems like just such a massive upgrade to notebooks. So notebooks have a bunch of challenges in my view. Like I can't use a proper editor with it. Like if I want to use PyCharm or VS Code and all of its navigation and its cool git blame and like history and just like all this stuff is just not present, right? Documentation, I think that actually it really works well there, right? But it doesn't tie the documentation of the notebook to like parts of functionality that might be created by the notebook, which is cool. One of the biggest problems with notebooks, it's a benefit, but it's a big problem, is if you run a notebook, it stores the output in the notebook. So if you had like a bokeh plot or you had like a print of a data frame, that is in there and now it's part of it. So if I'm working on a project and you're working on the same project and we both run the notebook at different times or the same time but separately, and it for some reason generates different results, that's a merge conflict in Git. Right? So basically, you cannot use notebooks in like a sane way with Git, because anytime you work with it, if you're not careful and like don't remove all the output before you save it, it's going to be a merge conflict. So this project has a Git pre-commit hook that will remove that problem. So right before it gets committed, it'll automatically do the cleaning of that metadata output. So it'll never have that as a conflict. It also has an ability to like a CLI go, just accept it. I just accept all of the metadata changes. Mine are just right or whatever, right? So it also has a CLI to automatically fix that. But if you do have those problems, but it also has this pre-commit hook to avoid them entirely.
Nice. That's a nice use for pre-commit too.
Yeah, it's super, super clever. So if I write a function in the notebook, I can put hash export in that cell, and that becomes a public function in the package.
Oh, cool.
Right. So I write like documentation and pictures, and I would say hash export. Now that's part of my library that I'm building. It also lets you create the structure for Python packages. So you have like the setup PY, and you can do the build wheels and whatnot automatically out of that. And it uses this exported stuff. You can have your unit tests in your notebook, which is pretty cool, for the things that are in there. And then finally, you can edit it. You can take the edited library, or the library that exported, sorry, and then edit it with PyCharm or VS Code, and then reverse export it. So what you can do is like, say, push the changes that I've done with my editor back into the segments of the notebook where that code came from.
Oh, man. Okay.
Right?
I'm a little confused, but I got to try it out.
Yeah. You got to kind of read through it to get the sense. But there's just a bunch of stuff going. Like all these things seem like, yes, you should have been able to do that with notebooks. But obviously, right, that's not their origins, right? They can't do everything at once. But all of these things seem awesome to me. Yeah. So in order to get started, it's going to basically create a Git repo for you, is my understanding, either on GitHub or GitLab. So you got to follow the getting started instructions, and then you click a button and it'll like generate the repo in the right structure, or you can use the CLI tooling to generate like the right repo with things like the git commit prehooks and whatnot. And if you're going to read the docs, check out nbdev.fast.ai, because this comes from Fast AI people, the same one as the build the Fast API framework. So some of the docs render better. There's certain things on GitHub that like it says, and here's a cool picture, and it's just like source code. It's not quite right. So maybe check out the final link at the bottom in this section to get to, if you're going to like browse through it, but it's basically you get the same thing out of GitHub. Anyway, this to me seems like a massive improvement for notebooks. It sort of brings them more into, I can do things like, for example, you can now have your notebook and its tests running as part of continuous integration. Like, so these notebooks are now like full participants in CI/CD. You can upload, you can like create packages and put them on PyPI. There's all sorts of neat stuff. The documentation, like if you have a cool graph as part of your notebook, that can become the documentation on PyPI or read the docs for those functions. I mean, it's crazy cool how this is like taking some of the awesome parts of notebooks, like the doc side, and turn that into the help docs, and then also letting you export the functionality still as a proper CS type thing.
Yeah, I definitely gotta check this out.
How did I not even know this existed? Like, this is all. Thank you for watching this segment of the Python Bytes podcast. This video was made during the recording of the full episode. Visit pythonbytes.fm and get the whole story. Subscribe to the podcast and get the entire episode delivered to your phone. Please support our work by taking one of the courses at pythonbytes.fm/courses or learning PyTest with Brian's book at pythonbytes.fm/PyTest. Finally, visit our sponsor shown on the screen here. Visit the link on the screen and get the special offer for Python Bytes and YouTube listeners. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.